All right. I'm still not exactly sure if this works now. And yeah, seemingly just like last time, I managed to uh, screw things up with regards to events and live stream now and this and that and whatever. Um, Screw it. Never mind. Let's see how this goes now. And with a little bit of luck, we might actually have a few people joining us later. And yeah, in the meantime, I might just kill a little bit of time and maybe address a few things I forgot to last time. Um, Namely, I went over the uh, weapons that these two factions, Clan and Innersphere, have in their repertoire, so to speak. And I remember I did cover Innersphere and I didn't cover the clans at all. And since unless you have a certain reason to, you might actually end up mixing Innersphere and Clan Max. Might as well just talk about these real quick. Um, so Clan Max or the clans in general have a lot of weaponry that the Inner Sphere have as well, namely the standard array of lasers. They've got autocannons, ultra autocannons, LBX autocannons. If you remember, they are these shotgun style autocannons. Um, what they don't have are some of the, I would call them, slightly more exotic weapons. For example, clans do not have rotary autocannons. Clans do not have heavy gauss or light gauss or light PPC or heavy PPC, but they have a few other nice things. I've just dug up a mech that uh, has hard points for all. Um, I hope you can see this. I'm not exactly sure. Any any clan weapon has a C dash in front of them. Basically says clan AC2, clan AC5, etc., etc. Um, and looking at this primarily, aside from the fact that it's got a C in front of them, they don't seem to differ all that much. Um, Except when you look at um, some of the values of these weapons. Clan weapons in general are a tiny little bit lighter. They use, in some cases, fewer slots, and I'm not exactly sure if the range is all that different. It might range and heat generation. Um, yeah, in terms of sort of ballistic weapons, they don't differ all that much. I think most of what you see here, you can find in the Innisphere list of weapons as well. But if you look at stuff like machine gun, which a regular machine gun weighs half a ton for Innisphere, it weighs a quarter ton for clans. Light machine gun, the same thing. Heavy machine gun weighs half a ton here, and that weighs a full ton for Innisphere Max. That since a machine gun does fairly little damage and doesn't have a lot of range, this might not sound all that appealing until you look at mechs that literally have 12 ballistic hardpoints. There's one mech in particular that does boat 12 machine guns, and grouped up like this, they do a lot of damage. Um, Energy weapons is where it gets a little more interesting. The clans have an additional class of lasers called heavy lasers. They're not large lasers. They've got this is literally a class of its own. It says heavy small laser, heavy medium laser, heavy large laser. They are largely like the regular medium heavy and small laser, except they run hotter. They generate more heat when you fire them. They have a little bit of they have a little less range, but they do a lot more damage. For example, a regular inner sphere small laser does 3 points of damage. This one does six and a half. The beam duration is a little higher, so if you fire the thing, then the beam will stay there for like a second or second and a half before it's over. So you will have to point your weapon at the enemy for a little bit longer, but you do quite a bit of damage, specifically if you boat a lot of them in the same mech. They've got a micro laser which also weighs only a quarter ton, and it's a little bit like a machine gun. It has very limited range. Does 2.4 points of damage, which is also not a lot. But again, if you have a lot of hard points and you're a little strapped for remaining weight, with which You can invest in weapons. Boating a lot of them can be quite deadly. Um, ER lasers is roughly the same thing. Micro pulse lasers is a little bit like the micro laser, except yeah, it weighs half a ton and it fires a pulse, as in the so-called beam duration is much lower. ER PPCs also available in for Inner Sphere, but the clan ER PPC is a ton lighter, uses one slot less, and it looks like it doesn't. The damage is the same. It says here damage 10. What this doesn't tell you is that the clan ERPPC is a so-called splash weapon. It does 10 points of damage in the component that it hits, and I think another 5 points of damage in one or two adjacent components, which can make this thing quite deadly. Missiles, yeah, there's a few differences. So clans do not have medium range missiles, which is a bit of a shame. With regards to all the other long range and short range missiles, they are, for the most part, significantly lighter. You can get an SRM-6 for 2.5 tons. If you take the Artemis guidance system out, it's even less. But what the clients also lack in MRMs, they've got a different type of launcher called ATM, which, if memory serves, stands for Advanced Tactical Missile, and these things are kind of interesting. Whereas in a long-range missile, where one missile does 1 point of damage, and a short-range missile, where each missile has 2 points of damage, but the launcher is smaller, an ATM does damage depending on how long it's traveled. They also have a minimum range of 90 meters, but I think between 90 and a little bit before, it's about 300 meters. Each missile does 3 points of damage, and you can boat a launcher that holds 12 missiles each. The longer the missile travels, the less damage it does. There's a small diagram when you click on the weapon that shows you what the absolute maximum distance is. Its absolute maximum distance is about 1,120 meters. You will find that most pilots boating these do not shoot them at longest distance, because then they do very little damage at really long distance. Plus, if you have a mech running around that has anti-missile systems, shooting down a volley of 12 missiles is usually not a problem. So you would waste your ammo shooting them at a long range. But if you shoot them at short range, they do punch holes. That being said, yeah, most equipment is a little bit lighter, and uses fewer slots. There are also a few things like these upgrades, which actually, unfortunately, I cannot change here right now. Like, for example, Ender Steel structure, where the structure of a mech only weighs half a ton, but you sacrifice a couple of usable slots for this. Where in the Inner Sphere mechs, if you put in Endosteel, you lose 14 slots for those for the additional weight that you gain from it. Here you only lose 7. Same goes for armor. Plus, I might have mentioned also this last time, the XL engines, which when you put them in, weigh half of what a regular engine weighs, which can be significant. But they take up slots in each torso. They take up 1 slot less here, and the problem that you have with Inner Sphere mechs that have these XL engines that take up 3 slots in each torso is, if you do lose a torso, your engine literally blows up, or your engine is disabled, however you want to put it. Not so much with Clan XL engines. They only basically only have 2 slots here, and this is rooted in the BattleTech board game, where the reasoning was that if you had 3 critical hits to your engine, it's disabled. And the idea was, if you lose any component, it counts as if you got a critical hit to each slot in that component that included the engines. So if a clan mech were to lose a torso, it would only get 2 hits to its engine, and it would screw up the heat management, but it would still be operable. So yeah, clans slightly fewer sort of I wouldn't even call them freak weapons, but sort of interesting weapons. But what they do have is usually of higher quality. There's also something else that some of the clan mechs have, which is called omnipods. And if you look at um, the omnipods are these rectangles here. There is sort of a specific one for each component, minus the center torso, which while it exists, you usually can't change. Um, but these are the idea of these are that they are basically interchangeable weapon pods. So, for example, I've got a right torso that has one ballistic hardpoint. Now I could look at can I put anything else in there? Yeah, there are actually a total of 3 different ones available. I could put in um yeah, I could put in this right torso thing, which would give me one ballistic slot and one slot for an anti-missile system. That costs a little bit of money. It costs almost 500,000 C bills. So yeah, it is a little expensive, but it does allow you to mix and match hard points within a certain degree, which is kind of nice. The downside is, these are called so-called Omnimax. Downside is, for an Omnimac, you cannot change the engine. The engine is fixed installed. This thing you cannot swap that out. Whereas in the Inner Sphere Max, you can most of the time you can change the engines, but the hard points are fixed. So this is what you get. Okay, let me quickly check if we've got anybody who is ready. I haven't heard anything yet. I don't even know if anyone's watching. Let me see if I can. Yeah, we might. I'm not sure. Left dashboard. 2 watching. That's cool. Right. I'm gonna give the folks I've pinged with regards to maybe doing group drops a little bit more time, and I'll spend that time playing a little bit. So, yeah, there's a few mechs that I've bought since that I'm trying to increase the skill level of. This one is, you know what? Let's take this one. That's a clan mech. It's got an interesting variety of weapons. I've got an Ultra AC-20 up here, which, if you remember, is an autocannon that does, in one volley, 20 points of damage, which is quite a lot. And you can so-called double tap it as you hit the fire button twice, and then it shoots twice in fairly rapid succession, with an increased chance that it might jam for I don't know, 10 seconds or so. Then I've got a bunch of lasers here, and in the arms I put ATMs. So, oh, trigger the automated penalty system. Oh yeah, that happened to me earlier, where I joined a match, and just before the match literally started, we had a bit of a lightning storm going on here, and we had a very, very brief power dip, and that made my computer reset. So yeah, I did rejoin the match eventually, but yeah, apparently there was oh well, it triggered a penalty system. Well, such is life. Okay. Let me see. Game mode, I'm more fan of domination. And while technically the mech gets a little warm, I do like this map. Let's see where we end up. Right now it looks like we're gonna play Solaris City. Oh well. It's not the most ideal map for the mech I have, since that's a city map with a lot of high buildings, and not a lot of open space, and plenty of choke points. Which, well, at least I'm running ATM, so I can shoot them ideally at medium to short range. But I don't know. This map is great if you have basically a lot of pinpoint short range weapons. Short range missiles work very well on this map. And it does help if you have jump jets. Yeah, as far as the game mode, domination is a little bit like, I believe the equivalent is King of the Hill, where you have an area in the middle of the map, and the idea is to head towards that area, and if you're in that area, that starts a timer. Except if an enemy is in that area as well, that basically stops the timer for both. And the idea is to reduce your timer that's set for 1 minute to 0. I kind of like this game mode since it adds a little bit of tactical depth, but it also requires that you have at least one mech, or at least part of your force in a certain. Oh yeah. And mute. Very nice.
Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online.
All systems nominal.
All systems nominal.
This is Clan Command. Get to the target and capture it. Cut down any enemies that get in the way.
And we got dropped off facing the wrong way. Let's head out. Oh, I forgot one nice feature of this particular mech. It has ECM, which is short for electronic countermeasures. That makes this mech harder to detect on the radar for enemy mechs. And on top of that, I have an about... if any friendly mechs stand about 90 meters from me, they are engulfed in this sensor distortion field as well. It's very helpful if you want to surprise people. It's great if you have a scout mech on a large map. You have something fairly fast and fairly small. With ECM, it's great to gather intel for your team.
25%. Do not let the enemy keep it up.
See the timer up top? None of our folks are in the circle right now, so yeah, we need to hustle and get someone in. Annoyingly, whoever is running, whoever is running light mechs here did not make it a priority to get their metallic butt in there. But we're there now, which means we really cannot leave this right now. This is the center of the map, and it can be a bit of a death trap, so there we go. And right there. Floating missiles.
New target acquired.
Trying to maneuver in here.
Yeah, I need you over here now.
New target acquired.
Destroy the Hellburn is left towards us. Hellburn is down.
New target acquired.
Target spotted.
Standing on a hill of sorts. Oh, this is not good. Okay, they've got something up there called a UAV, which is a unmanned sensor beacon. actually looking pretty good. We've got 7 kills, they've got 2.
Target acquired.
So now is definitely
New
time to
target acquired.
Target
move
spotted.
forward with the team and mop up the rest. There's a...
New target acquired.
Target spotted.
That is harsh. That's an Atlas. That's a 100-ton monster. I'm not exactly sure what it's doing back there. I see it does have long-range weapons, but...
New
It's
target.
not a good idea to run in front of a...
Target destroyed.
Atlas is toast.
New target acquired. Target destroyed.
Oh yeah, just one
New
back
target
left.
acquired.
An Arctic cheetah with no weapons. And that's it.
Taking the target.
Good game, Greg.
Victorious in battle.
It was a good game. I felt a little bit less effective than I probably should have been, running around with 90 tons of steel, but we won. 2 killing blows, 6 kill assists, 333 damage for an assault. It could have been better. But it's fine. I'll take it. So, back in here, I don't know if I've covered the skill tree last time. But yeah, maybe just go over it quickly with an example. Right now, I'm trying to skill this mech out, as in after every match, you get a certain amount of skill points depending on how well you did, and you can actually get experience points, and you can sort of trade them in for skill points. The conversion rate's 800 to 1, so you don't get a huge amount. And even to convert them, it takes C-builds, but it is usually quite it's worth doing. So for this mech, I'm primarily right now focusing on the firepower tree. Since I have a fairly wide variety of weapons, I will try to sort of get these specific skill nodes for each one. The green ones are missiles. There's this, for example, this node increases the critical damage chance. If a missile hits an exposed component, there's a higher chance it will critically damage one of the pieces of equipment in that component. Missile spread reduces the spread of the whole missile volley. Missile rack just gives you a little bit more ammunition per ton. We've got similar stuff for the autocannon that I have. The enhanced UAC, RAC reduces jam duration and improves jam bar dissipation rate, which is very useful if you plan on firing that weapon quite a lot and you don't want it to jam at the least opportune moment. There's also stuff like magazine capacity, which is similar to the missile rack node for missiles. You just get more, you get more shots per ton. And laser duration is somewhat helpful for the 3 pulse lasers we have, though I wouldn't put them as a priority because pulse lasers already have a fairly short duration. This just helps a little more. Okay, with the amount of experience points I had, I could buy 4 skill points, and I'm just gonna go down the tree here. This increases the range for my weapons by 1%. This helps with cooldown. Cooldown does not mean that they produce less heat. It means after they're fired, after each weapon fires, they enter a so-called cooldown period. After that cooldown period is over, you can fire the weapon again. And the more of these cooldown nodes you have, the faster you can fire pretty much all of your weapons. And range, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. That said, there are a couple more trees you can spend your points on. This is survival, which is mostly skeletal density and armor hardening, which just gives you a few more points of armor or internal structure. There's things like shock absorbance, which just means if you fall down from a certain height, you're less likely to take damage to your legs. What was the other thing? Reinforced casing means you're less likely if you have an exposed component gets hit by weapon fire, it means you're slightly less likely. It will slightly less likely result in one or few pieces of equipment in there to be damaged or destroyed. There's also something AMS overload that is if you have an anti-missile system, it just means it works a little better. Mobility is stuff like you can twist your torso further. You can the torso twist is quicker. You can move a little faster. You can stop a little faster, or when you do a turn, you can slightly tighten your turn radius. Jump jets, I don't have any. It just helps with like jump jets a little more effective. You can twist a little better while jumping, and it produces less heat. Operations is all kinds of stuff. It's quick ignition, speed retention, which just means maintains a max speed after being legged. That means if you lose a leg, your speed gets capped by either half of what you had before or 40 kph, whichever is lower. And just speed retention means you can move a slight bit faster if you've lost a leg. I would say just try not to use a leg. Or to lose a leg more. Improve gyros. Reduce the amount of screen shake when you're being hit by enemy fire. Well. Yeah, all kinds of other stuff. This was actually fairly important for me since this mech has ECM, electronic countermeasures, since there are two nodes that increase the effectiveness of ECM by 22.5% each. So these are nodes you want to get. If you have a mech with ECM, try to get these right away, plus throw in goodies like radar deprivation. Reduces the duration of time you remain targeted after breaking an enemy's line of sight, which is great if you're fighting an enemy that shoots you with long-range missiles, because while they have the missiles will track you, while the mech has you set as a target. But if you have radar deprivation on and you move behind a piece of cover, that lock is going to be broken a whole lot faster. And as soon as that lock is broken, the missiles will just continue on their trajectory but will not track anymore. So for evading missiles, this is very useful. Consumables, I think I might not have mentioned either. These are things that you can add to any mech with a certain limit. They don't use up any slots, so to speak. They don't use up any weight, but they are one shots, and they're one shots, and you have to pay for them. For example, this one's called a cool shot, which is when you use this, it drops your currently accumulated heat by a certain percentage, which is very useful if you have a mech that has weapons that generate a lot of heat. Specifically, if you have a lot of lasers or a lot of autocannons, which can rack up heat quite a little bit, and you're in the middle of a fight and the cannons are firing fine, you still have ammunition, but your heat scale is closing to the point where your mech might shut down. You just slam the cool shot and it gives you a few more seconds. Advanced air and artillery strike is you can call in an air/artillery strike onto sort of, you point it at either a mech or a piece of ground, and it will you will sort of place an artillery marker right where you pointed this, and then a few seconds later you either get an airstrike, which is sort of a couple of explosions in a straight line, or an artillery strike, which it means just explosions within a certain circle around where you set the marker, which is very, very useful, specifically in the early parts of the game when most of the enemy are still more or less tied together and walking forward, and this is very useful to carry when you have a small scout and you're running around. It's specifically great when you have ECM. The enemy doesn't see you, you see them walking or like bundling up somewhere, and you set an artillery strike right in their midst, and that does a lot of damage. it's not gonna it doesn't do a massive damage to a single component, but it does a fair amount of damage spread out over everywhere. Last but not least, something called a UAV. I might have mentioned this briefly in the game before, which is an unmanned aerial vehicle, which is literally just a small sensor drone that hovers above the battlefield for, I don't know, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and gives your team full sensor coverage, which is very, very useful. For this mech, I have one cool shot and one artillery strike. I cannot use the three consumable slots I have right now. For this, I would need to build up this auxiliary tree a little more. Right now, I only have unlocked one. So you get one of these consumable slots right off the bat, and you can unlock another one with 1 point. And then you have stuff like increases your duration of air artillery strikes, yada yada yada. Expanded reserves means you can boat up to 2 air and artillery strikes. Plus, you can if you put in a lot of points, you can unlock all 5 of these consumable slots, and you can enhance their effectiveness a little bit depending on how you want to play your mech. Right. Do we have any takers? I still have a few folks who said they might join me in a game, but they're still potentially having problem installing Mechwarrior Online, which is a shame. But yeah, for as nice as the game looks and it plays when you have it installed, the installation process is somewhat needlessly complicated. Okay, I've played this. Let's try something else. This is a mech I've just started playing yesterday. This is actually a lot of fun. It's a Bushwhacker, which is a 55-ton inner sphere mech. The kind of cool thing about the Bushwhacker, let me just look at it this way, is that this red thing is the center torso. The blue thing, the blue parts here, literally are the side torso. So when you face this thing from the front, it's a little bit of center torso. It's a very, very little bit of side torso. The arms stick out quite a bit, but it does mean you have a fantastic way of so-called of splashing incoming fire. It means if someone shoots at you, you can literally just move the mech to the left and right just a little bit, and it will spread the damage over right torso, left torso, and center torso, which makes this mech fairly hard to stare down. As you can see, I don't have anything. I didn't put any weapons in the arms because the arms are fairly easy to hit, and for a Bushwhacker, almost kind of useless. You can put something in there, but I decided not to. And armament for this is fairly simple. I put in 2 rotary autocannon 5s, lots of ammo, and an anti-missile system. In terms of... Actually, let me fix this. Since I don't have anything in the arms, these become really not all that interesting anymore. So even if this mech loses an arm, it's not losing anything critical. Therefore, the arms really don't need a whole lot of armor. So I just strip some more armor out, put it in the legs. With a Bushwhacker, you just want to make sure you've got maximum amount of armor in both torso sides and center torso. The rest, well, you also want to have something in the legs, but the rest is almost it's almost not interesting. So let me save this real quick. And let's play. Rotary autocannon 5s. Aside from they're one of the kind of cooler types of weapons that unfortunately clans do not have, or should I say, luckily the clans do not have. Most of their weapons are sort of lightly and slightly more effective anyway. So let's not have them that. Let's not give them the really cool stuff. Hey. Rotary autocannons are don't fire in bursts. They literally fire a stream of bullets, which can be a lot of fun to play. They go through ammo like popcorn, and they use up quite a bit of heat, but it can be very, very disconcerting getting hit by a stream of bullets because, well, it is. yeah, it is very disconcerting to get hit by this, since it always goes cling, 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 cling against your armor. Okay. Frozen City. It's a bit of a mixed bag. It's a cold map. It's got a city component, and it's got this sort of ravine here in the middle that you should ideally not find yourself stranded in when the enemy has high ground. The game mode is incursion. It's basically you have a base, the enemy has a base. Either you destroy the base completely, or you destroy all the enemy mechs and do a little bit of damage to their base, then you win as well.
Reactor online.
Technically,
Sensors online. Weapons online.
I'm not sure if the idea was to
All
have
systems nominal.
part of your team stay back and defend the base.
Ground troops,
Practically
defend our
nobody
base and
defends the
stop
base.
enemies.
So this is our base, and there's a huge ass wall that protects it, haha. And yeah, I'll just walk out and see where this goes. Seems I'm an Alpha Lance. Alpha Lance mostly contains mechs that are relatively light. I'm a medium mech. I'm not exactly sure why I'm an Alpha Lance, but okay. We have this Arctic Cheetah, a Stormcrow, and another Bushwhacker. Fantastic. So, but
Artillery strike online.
strike online, fantastic. That's meet up with the rest of the team.
Target acquired.
Oh, Cicada, that's a light mech, an enemy light mech, and he's met one of our team already.
New target
Alrighty.
acquired.
Target spotted.
Let me reposition. I don't have a good line of fire from here.
Target spotted.
Artillery strike.
Sorry.
New target acquired.
And can, but he's... Oh, that's bad news. Annihilator, 100 tons, very slow but very heavily armored.
Target
Okay,
spotted.
we've got an Atlas, which is also 100 ton back. Plus, ours walked right into the enemy line. That's not good. This is literally a pretty useless suicide.
Target spotted.
While the Atlas is usually a good mech to be tip of the spear, as in when everybody walks forward, this guy can go first because he's so heavily armored, he can make up a good shield. This is kind of something you would want to announce to the team and tell them, "I'll go forward, please follow me." Yeah. Road reactor cannons, they do jam a little bit, so keep an eye on that jam bar in the top right.
Artillery strike.
That was the enemy calling an artillery strike on us. Called an artillery strike in there since they still... Oh, that wasn't good. No! I overheated. Yeah, that wasn't a good idea. I made a big mistake there. I did not hit my shutdown override button, and yeah, I overheated, that was the end of me. As you can see, what I only really lost is a side torso, but that mech is putting an XL engine, and yeah, as I mentioned, inner sphere XL engine means losing a side torso means you lose a whole mech. I might have to repeat this. I thought given the Bushwhacker's somewhat sleek design of its side torsos, I would get away with it, but
Door, continue to go.
that's a Warhawk getting eaten alive.
Dude, you're like the last one.
Yeah, I know.
Some salt going on. It's one of our light mechs figured like he's just gonna do a lot of damage to the enemy any enemy base, but he encountered an enemy locust, which is also a fairly good scout mech.
Small pulse laser.
He's already lost an arm to that part of its weaponry. Plus,
Also critical.
since he's in the enemy base does field a few automated medium laser turrets. So it's not only that this small mech is shooting at him, but also the defensive turrets.
Right leg critical damage.
Oh,
Center torso critical.
oh, lost a leg. That makes it great. And
Our base is under attack.
yeah, since this guy has done some damage to the enemy base, the enemy now needs to do more damage to our base, which they should not have a problem at all doing, since all of our mechs are dead. That's a little bit annoying because now we basically have to wait until that soul mech with his one laser does enough damage. Well, at least he's getting help. There we go. Yeah, that could have gone better. Don't need to hang around for the salt. Oh, supply cache. Supply caches are a little bit weird. So you see this this progress bar here, and sort of this progress bar increases a little bit like with each match you play, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. And yeah, when it finishes, you get what's called a supply cache, which is basically think of it like a largely somewhat useless loot box. What you usually find in a supply cache are like assorted weapons and say a decal or some junk you can hang in your cockpit. In theory, there are caches that do contain whole battle mechs as well. I've seen I've seen a video of a guy just opening a lot of caches, and there was one in them. I've never gotten one. It's mostly a bunch of junk I don't use, or I rarely use. Got a medium laser. Wow, I've got 1,000 C-bills. That's not much, but okay. A targeting computer Mark 1. And decal of the number 1 that I can slap on my mech. Oh well. Let's try this again. Hopefully the next match will be better. Let's try Terra Therma, which is also not absolutely ideal for the mech that I have because it's a very, very hot map. But it's a map that's rarely ever picked, mainly because of that. So I do like to play it whenever I get the chance. But yeah, of course, we are playing HPG Manifold, which is a somewhat cold map. It's supposed to be set on a moon somewhere in space, in the confines of a really large... it's supposed to be sort of a hyperspace communications device that is very, very valuable, and why people are decided it's a good idea to send battle mechs in there which fire weapons potentially into this very, very expensive piece of equipment is beyond me, but it makes for a nice looking map. Yeah, the game mode is skirmish, which is destroy all enemy mechs. That's it. What makes this map, what I find, at least in my opinion, makes this map a little bit of annoying. There's one sort of key component to playing this map, and is get onto the center raised center platform and hold it. And the problem with that is that the team's not always on board with this, or people will just ignore it and will start what's called NASCARing, as in they somewhat approach the platforms, then do a right turn and literally run around the thing in a circle. And
all systems
if the
nominal.
NASCAR, for one thing, it's kind of boring.
Command,
For
eliminate all
another,
enemies, no matter the cost.
there's not a lot of strategy behind this. And if the other team has the presence of mind to take center platform, then they've got a fantastic raised position from which they can fire on. Since this platform has sort of a roof over it, they're even fairly protected from any kind of missiles. They just need to take a step back and the missiles hit the roof. But they can literally fire down into what for the most part is a fairly unprotected area. I will try
Target acquired.
go up there and maybe hold this.
Target spotted.
Incoming missile.
And yeah.
Target spotted.
So this is here. As you can see, if you stand on the edge
Roll
of
towards
this,
the right, guys, towards Echo 4.
Okay, here we go.
New target acquired. Artillery strike online.
I think they're NASCARing. Okay.
Warning, incoming missile.
Target spotted.
The downside of this thing is the
Warning,
racks have a
incoming
spin-up
missile.
time.
Warning, incoming missile.
Guy's never peeking his head up long enough that I can react.
New target
Oh,
acquired.
that's an Atlas. That is an Atlas. Not a good mech to...
Left arm critical
Target
damage.
spotted.
Fine, I don't
Left
have
arm destroyed.
up there as well.
Some losses. Don't get sloppy
Yeah.
out there.
We lost 3 mechs. It's not going well.
Target
Artillery
spotted.
strike online.
Yeah, and we're pretty spread out, as you can see.
New target
They
acquired.
don't seem to be making a massive effort to stay out there either.
New
Whatever
target
they are.
acquired. Warning,
Okay.
incoming missile. Right arm destroyed.
Yeah, I don't have anything
Right
in my arms.
torso critical
We lost
damage.
half our force. We can't lose any more soldiers.
Yeah, we're gonna lose this. It's already 7-1.
AMS ammo at 25%.
That's my
We're
anti-missile
taking
system
critical
firing.
losses. We need you to pull through.
Left torso critical.
And I'm dead. Yeah, I was there pretty much by myself.
Come in. Control to surface. Can anyone read?
Yeah. That, by the way, was called a stomp, which is if your team gets defeated 12-0, 12-1, 12-2, something like that. Stomps are never fun. They're usually not even fun if you're on the winning side, because it's just it just becomes an exercise literally who gets the kill. There's no tension in there. Okay. Time to check if anybody's ready to play. Not getting anything. Never mind. Let's try that again. One last time, the Bushwhacker, and hopefully can actually win something this time. Interesting choice. Let's play Assault, because I really don't like Conquest. And let's try Viridian Bogs. It's probably going to be... Yeah, it's going to be Tourmaline Desert, but... Okay. Assault is you have... I think they call it your base, but it's just sort of a small area that belongs to you, and there's a small sort of dedicated area that belongs to your enemy, and when you move your mech inside the area that belongs to your enemy, it sort of starts a very slow running progress bar, and if you manage to get that progress bar all the way to 0, you win. If the enemy does it to your base, you lose. Or just clobber the crap out of your enemy. That usually does the trick as well. Capture the enemy base. Destroy all enemy mechs. Timeout with most kills wins. Let me see. What do we have on our side? FS9. It's a fire starter. 25 tons? 30 tons? I forgot. But relatively quick. There's me in a Bushwhacker. There's a Piranha. That's a potentially very dangerous mech. This is one of the light mechs that is built out to boat very, very light weapons. There's a Piranha, I think it's the Prime, that boats 12 machine guns. I'm not sure if it's the Piranha A that boats 12 or so micro pulse lasers, but
weapons online.
Piranhas can be incredibly deadly when they get close to an assault mech that is too slow to effectively target them. They can run into the back of an assault mech where the armor is thinnest and can literally drill through to the goods in no time at all. At least with a Piranha that has a lot of machine guns, you know that it ultimately runs out of ammo. Okay. FS9 fire start. This thing is not walking as fast as I remember it to be. I think they are shooting at mechs. I haven't seen it. Oh yeah.
Target acquired.
Target spotted.
Hellfire, 60 tons I believe, and a fairly new design.
Acquired.
Didn't split up, that's good. Oh, that's deadly. That's a hunchback with heavy medium lasers. That is very, very hot. And this map already has this fairly hot environment.
Incoming.
Oh, of course.
Warning, incoming missile.
Yeah, it's sitting all the way up there and shooting missiles over at us. That's not very sportsmanlike.
New target acquired. Artillery strike
We
online.
can an artillery strike in their midst if I knew that was. You might or might not hear this. My anti-missile system working
New
overtime.
target acquired.
Need assistance.
Oh, interesting.
They're in the corridor. F6 or E6. Watch out there.
Okay.
Okay, we are rotating right, guys. Watch out.
That's not good. Most of my assaults have
Spotted.
moved out. Trying to move out without exposing my back to the enemy. Because I don't have a lot of back armor. So we're rotating, which I'm not a huge fan of, but at least if we're all going to do it together, we can focus fire on a small segment.
Golf center torso.
Golf means it's the enemy, the G on top of it. I'm not sure. I don't see that right.
New target acquired.
That is the Piranha with machine guns. This is the one I meant. Very, very annoying. Look at that. Piranha's machine gun. Building days are almost over.
New target
His
acquired.
legs have taken quite a bit of damage. If they take any more damage and he loses a leg, then he becomes fairly stationary. Yep. Wow. That's a lot of them. They just ran right into our backs. Not good. Yeah, I'm not in the bushwhacker mood right now. Let's pick something else. Should I pick something heavy? Yeah, I've had a fairly good time with that Blood Asp earlier with the missiles and Ultra SC-20. You know what? Let's keep doing that. This thing's been good to me today. So far, no one ready to join in. Yeah, this time of the week, it can take some time for the matchmaker to assign you to a group, since there's a lot of people online, and it tries to weigh the games relatively evenly, which something that didn't really work well up until I'm not sure, about 2 months ago maybe. They made a few changes. It's a little better now, but during crunch time it's still slow. Mm-hmm. Okay, skirmish, and I haven't played Crimson Strait in a while. And it seems a few other people have not either. That's good. This map vote multiplier and game mode multiplier you see here is sort of how much your vote counts, and it goes up every time you vote for something that doesn't get picked. So next time, the idea is that next time there's a vote, you have a little bit more weight to throw in, and it goes for both maps and game mode. Yeah, I mean you could strategize this in a way that if a map comes up that you know is not going to get picked, just vote for that anyway. Just ups your multiplier, and you might get the other map anyway. So we have next time you're really more passionate about a certain map, you can assign it more points. Oh, someone's playing an executioner. That's a rare thing to see on the battlefield. So far we've got a Panther, which is 30-ton mech, and I'm not sure what the loadout is for this. HMN, I'm not sure what that is. BSW is Bushwhacker, RFS is Rifleman, that's 60 tons. JM is Jagger mech. Is it 65 or 70 tons? I forget. RGH is Roughneck. There's still someone trying to connect. Executioner is fairly heavy. DWF is Direwolf. That's a clan 100-ton mech. People sometimes refer to it as Dire Whale since it's pretty slow.
Sensors
fairly bulky,
online.
but it can
Weapons
hold an impressive
online.
array of weapons.
All systems nominal.
Not that I should comment about weight. The badass I'm piloting is 90%. Is 90 tons heavy.
Show no mercy.
Okay. I like this map. It looks like we are... It's nighttime right now. I don't know if you have explained this last time. There are two sort of vision modes you can select from. One is night vision, which looks like this, which, if there's not a lot of backlighting, might help you to figure out where something's moving or where you're going. There's heat vision, which looks like this. That definitely helps to give you a fairly high contrast wherever enemy mechs are.
There is no base.
There is no base. I do specifically like heat vision, but it does get very fuzzy at long
Artillery
range.
strike online.
But where these two modes definitely help, I mean, aside from the fact that like whenever it gets dark, things are a little hard to see. Where they definitely also help is where there's a lot of smoke, because smoke will happen when stuff, like when you damage a mech far enough, it will start to smoke. When someone lays down a whole lot of missiles or a whole lot of autocannon explosions, that will create quite a bit of smoke, and it can be a little tricky to find mechs that are standing right in there or right behind it. So it does make sense to play with these a little bit. I'm actually switching to night mode right now. Seems
Tunnel's clear.
to the tunnel, no one's there yet. Tunnel's clear right now. I have a feeling it will help. I will actually try to get out of the tunnel again, just basically because I've got ATMs. These missiles will first sort of they will move upward, and so if I fire my ATMs in the tunnel, most of them will just hit the tunnel roof and will be seen useless.
Target acquired.
Night Gyre.
New target acquired.
Can't fire my missiles, but they're
Quad
not very
Hour
effective.
15 Hunchback on their team again.
Quad Annihilator coming in from the coming in tunnel.
New target
Coming there,
acquired.
the light mech.
I'm distracting in the bush.
Oh, for Pete's sake, that guy doesn't heavy machine gun is even worse.
New target acquired.
Shit, some manners.
Acquired.
Let's not shut down here.
New target
Not that
acquired.
great since I'm basically just moving back and forth.
New target.
It's a little warm here. Oh, that's not good.
New target acquired. Loading incoming missile.
Ah. Okay. One mistake I made, I tried to concentrate on the enemies in front of me. I didn't look where my team was. Looking at the kill score right now, I guess my team was dead. That wasn't good.
New target acquired.
Something else was the rotary on the campfire. Oh no. And a panther, that doesn't kill anyone.
Warlord. Destroyed.
Okay, that's the worst kind of push. 0 to 12. Yeah. The Panther had an interesting loadout though. ER particle cannon and MRM 10. I could see that working, specifically on a mech that is fairly light and nimble. Speaking of which, let's try to pilot something that's light and nimble. I've been in the these weapon boats for too long today. Let's what should we do? Should we pilot this thing, which is light very quickly and has 6 light pulse lasers, which they can be quite annoying to to enemy mechs. It does not have ECM, so I probably spent more time running. Then I've got this thing, which has 4 small pulse lasers, which means it doesn't quite pack as much punch as the flea here, but it has ECM, which is very, very useful. That makes it very hard to see. Or what I also have, and what I haven't played in a while, is this thing. It's a Raven, which is also fairly quick. Its weapons consist of 2 medium lasers in the arm and 1 light PPC, which is an interesting weapon. It's got a maximum range of 1080 meters, so you can shoot over a fairly wide distance. It's got ECM to protect it from immediately getting spotted and shredded to bits. And it's got something called Narc, which I might have explained last time, which is literally a projectile you can fire at an enemy mech. That will not do any damage, but it will tag that that enemy mech for radar no matter where it is, which is especially good if you have, say, a lot of mechs in your team that carry missiles, because they will then see that this thing was tagged, and they can just point their missiles and shoot it. These missiles will track. They will track until they hit that mech. The effectiveness on this map, on this mech, depends highly on what map is getting picked and what mechs your team is running around with. I mean, this really makes a lot of sense if you have a lot of missile launchers on your team. If not, then it's still kind of nice to see where the enemy is, but Narc is largely it's largely made to give missile launchers a target. So I'm still gonna look if someone wants to play. So far I've got 1 person watching. If you have any preference of what I should play, please let me know. Oh. Okay, by the looks of it, Mechwarrior Online does not like me alt-tabbing out. That's not good. Okay, looks like I have to kill it, which is not nice. Okay. Okay, actually it looks like I might not be able to recover this session at all. That's not cool. Okay, you know what? We're about was it roughly how long are we in? Like an hour and 20-ish minutes? Yeah. It looks like I cannot recover this. Oh, that sucks. Okay. You know what? I might have to actually reset my computer, and I might just call it a stream for now. If I can, if you guys manage to install it and sort of want to drop again, maybe I'll restart the stream later. But yeah, sorry, I don't think I can recover this for now. So well, worst case, until next time, I suppose. Bye bye.